This week's Parsha is Parsha Terumah. Terumah details the building of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, which served the Jewish people for about 400 years, 40 of the years when they were in the desert, and for a good chunk of the years that they were in Israel until Solomon finally builds the first temple in Jerusalem. The temple served as a place of sacrifice and getting close to God, but before the temple was built, the Jewish people used the tabernacle that we describe in this week's Parsha, Parsha Terumah, exactly how the building of the Mishkan should take place. 3 items, 3 artifacts that were in the Mishkan had crowns around them. The Aron, the Ark of the Covenant, had a crown around its base. The Shulchan, the table, had a crown. And the altar, the Mizbeach, had a crown around its top as well. Why these 3 items? Why these 3 artifacts, these 3 vessels of the Mishkan? Why do they have crowns? And the rabbis tell us that the crown of the Aron represents the crown of Torah, the Shulchan represents the crown of kingship, and the crown of the Mizbeach represents the crown of Kahuna. And we know the famous Mishnah in Pirkei Avot that says there are 3 crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of Kahuna, and the crown of kingship, of Malchut. And the greatest crown of all, the crown that tops all other crowns, is the crown of a good name. Now, what's fascinating about this Parsha is that so much of it seems not relevant to us in today's life, because it's really talking about how to make these things, these items that furnished the Mishkan. But what has that got to do with my life? I'm never going to build those things. The great Klei Yakar, one of the commentators of the Torah, he says that each of these items represent something in our lives. If you look closer and you see exactly how the Torah commands us how to make it, you'll see that the Aron, all the measurements of making the Ark of the Covenant, the crown of Torah, it's all half measurements. When it comes to the Mizbeach, all the measurements are full numbers. There are no half measurements. And when it comes to the Shulchan, there are some measurements that are halved, fractions, and some measurements that are whole. And the Klei Yakar explains that when it comes to Torah, we should never feel that we've got it all, that we completed Torah. You can never complete Torah. You can spend your whole life learning Torah and you can never finish Torah. And that's why the crown of Torah, the box that housed the Torah, is all in fractions. We should always feel that our Torah is in fractions. And we'll never get a complete amount. We've always got to strive. We've always got to learn. But when it comes to the Mizbeach, all the numbers are whole numbers. There are no fractions. Because that one represents avodah, our service to God. And our service to God can't be in fractions. You can't half love someone. You either love them all or nothing at all. And therefore, the love for Hashem, the service of Hashem, has to be devoted entirely, full, no fractions. But when it comes to the table represents wealth, kingship, the crown of Malchut. When it comes to the table, so here we have a dichotomy. Some of the measurements are fractions, some of the measurements are whole. Because a person has to have the attitude and know that he will never be able to satiate all of his desires. His desires have to be fractioned, have to be half measures. He'll never be able to fulfill all his desires. But on the other hand, Pirkei Avot teaches us, Eizehu Ashir Hasameach Bechelko, who is truly a wealthy person, is someone who feels full numbers, that I've got everything in my life that I could possibly need. And therefore, in order to balance that dichotomy, and in order to give us relevance, this week's Parsha tells us exactly how we should look at Torah, how we should look at the service of God, and how we should look at wealth. Shabbat Shalom.